Back to the violence in Bahrain. The U.S. president has called the kings of both Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and said that he is concerned with the violence and that he is urging a maximum restraint against protesters. That's after new clashes broke out in Manama's Pearl roundabout. Security forces are accused of storming the city's main hospital and beating up doctors and staff. Those are all accounts that the government is denying. The U.S. Secretary of State is calling on both sides to return to the negotiating table. Right now, a curfew is underway in parts of Manama until 4 a.m. local time. The Bahraini government told our Mohammed Jamjoom to leave. He's now back at CNN Abu Dhabi. So you were told to leave the country. Why?
Hala, we don't know. I was contacted by the Ministry of Information. They said they would be sending a message to us. Somebody would be coming to the hotel. We had two Ministry of Information officials come to the hotel. They said that a CNN team was still welcome there, but I specifically was not. I was then escorted to the airport and made to leave the country. Hala?
Now, what about what you saw while you were there? We've heard accounts from witnesses on the ground that the main hospital was attacked, that demonstrators were also attacked. Were you able to see that in the brief time that you were allowed in Bahrain?
Starting this morning around 7 a.m. local time, we were awakened virtually by the sound of gunfire. We looked outside from our vantage point at the hotel. We were also getting calls from activists who were getting calls from people on the scene. We could see thick black plumes of smoke. We could see tear gas being dispersed. We could see anti-riot police going into the streets, firing tear gas at people at residential neighborhoods, trying to disperse crowds. It was a very violent scene. We then started calling hospitals to try to find out about injured. We were informed by doctors inside Salamania Hospital. They said that security forces were surrounding the hospital. They were preventing the injured from getting into the hospital. They were preventing the doctors from getting out of the hospital. The doctors inside that hospital were very, very concerned that possibly a massacre was taking place, concerned that they could not treat any wounded Bahrainis that needed treatment urgently. Now, the government since denied that. They put out statements saying that that was patently false. That was not the case. The government's line was that there was a hostage standoff going on inside that hospital and security forces were there to try to take care of that. A lot of contradictory information from the activists on the ground and the protesters and the government. The government's been denying everything the protesters say. The government also been calling the protesters saboteurs throughout the day. Hala?
What about these foreign troops in Bahrain, the Saudis, the Emiratis? Are they deployed or not?
Again, a lot of contradictory information on the ground today. The official stance of the GCC and their forces there is that the Gulf Cooperation Council forces are only there in certain parts of the country to protect specific installations, that they are not going to try to deal with riots. They are not going to try to disperse any of the rioters. That's a matter for the Bahrainis. But people on the ground there, many of them convinced today that Saudi forces, UAE forces may have been involved in the anti-riot policing that was going on. We were trying to find that out from government officials. We asked repeatedly to speak to government officials to try to find out what the government line was, to interview people while we were there. We never got anybody to come to us. We never got anybody to comment to us beyond the statements that we got.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what are they saying? We've been trying to get some of the government officials from Bahrain on the air as well. What is the response? Why aren't they, if they're denying the accounts of witnesses, if they're denying the accounts coming from doctors and hospitals, why aren't they coming out on the air to contradict the stories coming out of Bahrain?
Unfortunately, we simply don't know right now. In fact, when we had Ministry of Information officials come to the hotel to tell me that I was barred from reporting there anymore and that I would be escorted to the airport, we asked again, why weren't officials speaking to us? Throughout the day, we reached out to different ministries to try to get different officials. We kept being told that somebody would come to us, that they would have a statement, somebody would be interviewed on camera. It simply never happened. Hala?
Okay, well, we're still waiting, and we're calling on officials from the Bahraini government to hopefully make themselves available, as we've repeatedly requested opportunities for interview. Thanks, Mohammed Jamjoom. He has